Coronavirus, The Rundown. I'm Chris Stewart. Each day we showcase how communities are taking on coronavirus, and we also break down the major headlines. Today, new jobs numbers. The Labor Department says 1.9 million people filed for new weekly unemployment benefits last week. While it's still historically high, weekly numbers have been steadily decreasing since mid-March. The agency says 21.5 million people filed for continued benefits last week. White House coronavirus coordinator Deborah Birx is monitoring new coronavirus cases in cities with large protests. She's expected to present initial data this week and a bigger picture once there's more data. Experts hope the fact that most protests are outdoors will help reduce transmission risk. New research on the malaria drug hydroxychloroquine found it is not an effective preventative measure against coronavirus. The University of Minnesota Medical School studied more than 800 people who had close contact with a coronavirus patient. They took either the malaria drug or a placebo for 2 weeks. Researchers say there was virtually no difference in who got the virus or developed symptoms. Now, we mentioned those weekly unemployment numbers, and Alicia Nieves has the warning about how new layoffs could impact schools.
At a time of historically high unemployment, where tens of millions of Americans have already lost their jobs in the last 2 months, the Department of Labor is reporting another 1.9 million new jobless claims from last week. And now, new industries are sounding the alarm for more job loss to come.
We could lose 20% of the people that work in public schools.
Lily Eskelsen Garcia is with the National Education Association.
A public school runs on property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes. Nobody's working, nobody's buying stuff. So all of a sudden, the money that we thought would be there, it's gone.
NEA estimates a 20% job loss in public schools translates to 450 to 500,000 workers.
We are as concerned as we've ever been. We could lose hundreds of thousands of educators, teachers, school nurses, the counselors, the school psychologists, the custodians, the bus drivers.
The HEROES Act in Congress earmarks billions of dollars to fund public schools and prevent massive job loss. It was passed by the House, but the Senate has refused to take a vote on the bill.
I just keep thinking, when it was a business that they were saying, we really need to help these businesses, they passed it like that, holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It was a beautiful thing. And by the way, the workers that were helped in those first bills needed that help. And now it's a public school's turn. They're hesitating in a very strange way.
NEA is hoping citizens concerned make their voices heard by reaching out to their members of Congress. I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
Alicia, thank you. Now, both the House and Senate have passed a bill to give small businesses more time and flexibility to use money through the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, companies only have to use 60% of the loan on payroll as opposed to 75%. And they have longer to qualify for total loan forgiveness. That's from 8 weeks up to 24. Now, this is critical, especially in the restaurant industry where some haven't been able to reopen yet.
They need money for reprovisioning, getting new food, getting new protective equipment so they can serve customers in an even safer way.
The new legislation also creates an opportunity for more small businesses to go back to their bank and apply for PPP funds. They have until the end of the month to do so. Well, any coronavirus vaccine will more than likely mean getting 2 shots. Experts say most of the potential vaccines and trials right now require 2 doses. It's about a month apart. Now, they say there's potential that people also need a booster several years later. It all depends on what we learn in trials about the immunity that people build to the virus and just how long it lasts. The first shot would basically get the immune response going. The second one would make it stronger. Now, the costs of months of working from home, it may be starting to add up. You think of your electric bill, it might be higher. You may have upgraded your internet connection or spent money on some new office furniture for around the house. Well, there are companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple that have given employees stipends and reimbursements for those extra costs that have come with working from home. But if it hasn't happened with your work, experts say it's really up to you to ask. Those at Glassdoor say you want to make a list of things that you need to get your job done, then go to your boss.
So it really depends on what you need to be successful at work. But it'll be key for you to identify what those things are and then have a conversation with your employer and how they can help.
Now, the list will help guide the conversation. From there, your employer can figure out the next steps. Labor experts say that companies may legally have to reimburse you in the future as working from home becomes more common. Some states like California are already legally required to pay workers back for certain expenses. Every state already requires companies to reimburse minimum wage employees for job-related expenses. Now, having internet access is more important than ever right now. From work to school to our social lives, a lot of our lives are now online. Dan Grossman looks at the staggering number of people who don't have or can't afford internet service.
And this has been an issue, even before COVID.
The only way we're able to talk to Brenna Smith right now is because of this. Yeah, that thing with the wires. You're familiar with it.
The digital divide affects everybody.
Same with Gigi Sohn and Gina Millsap.
Broadband's like water and electricity now. You just got to have it.
What you might not be familiar with is just how many Americans don't have it. 141 million to be exact.
Well, the notion that government has nothing to do with this magical service is a bunch of nonsense.
Gigi Sohn is a distinguished fellow with the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society. She says the issue is twofold. First, there's a problem of infrastructure, particularly in rural America, but more importantly, it comes down to money and the lack of people who can afford the monthly prices, especially during the pandemic.
U.S. broadband prices are among the most expensive in the world. The median price is somewhere between $60 and $70 a month.
To make do, a lot of people have grabbed their computers and brought them here to the local library so they can access the digital world from the parking lot. And it's not just happening in rural areas, but cities across the country.
Oh yeah, every time I go to the library, there's at least a couple cars.
Remember Brenna? She's the executive director of a library system just outside of Denver and sees it constantly. It makes sense, considering 3 times as many urban Americans don't have access to broadband as rural Americans.
This is highlighting a huge issue for access.
It has put a strain on furloughed Americans. Without internet, unemployed workers have to file by phone or mail, and those methods usually mean Americans have to wait longer for benefits. To help, Congress introduced the HEROES Act on May 12th. Along with stimulus checks and tax credits, the bill would allocate $50 a month to low-income and unemployed Americans for broadband service through the end of the pandemic, a big jump from the $9.25 currently given.
For years, when I would try to talk to folks about broadband internet access, they said, yeah, Gigi, that's important, but that's not my core thing, right? Now it's everybody's primary issue.
Gigi says to fix the issue long-term, and not just during COVID, the government needs to keep making those investments and promote competition.
We need to solve it for good.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
And people are making tough decisions when it comes to money right now. The free financial advice available to anybody who wants it. And the business shift that could change how you interact with your favorite stores online. Of people are making tough choices right now when it comes to money. And Amanda Brandeis learned how to get a free financial advisor.
In a COVID-19 survey, 9 out of 10 people said the crisis caused stress on their personal finances.
I've got to pay this, and this. Which one is the most important? Also, we're getting a lot of calls of people just contemplating bankruptcy.
Kristen Pugh is a pro bono advisor with the Financial Planning Association. Pro bono means she helps clients free of charge.
In short, growing up poor made it so that I have a particular, want or need to help the community.
Pew and advisors around the country want to help those hit by COVID-19, offering to help plan next week's budget or next year's for free. No strings attached. However, they're not getting many calls.
Financial planning evokes being wealthy, having stocks and bonds, and that's not necessarily the case.
Anyone with bills and money to manage can benefit.
There's no such thing as a dumb question.
The help could range from a few phone calls to a 6-month relationship. Right now, Pew's advising many clients to try and get bills lowered or postponed, like your credit card or cell phone.
You never know unless you ask. So pick up the phone, call the credit card agency, and see, what are they doing to support people that are in your situation.
Susan Capra learned this during the 2008 recession after her dream job in the fashion industry was eliminated.
I just remember walking out in complete shock, just thinking that my life was over.
But she got creative. Like instead of renewing her car lease, she opted to put a little money down on a used car with low payments.
Figure out how to either reduce those big bills, defer those big bills, get help.
One of Pew's clients did this with a collection agency, negotiating a lower lump sum payment.
Somewhere in the neighborhood, maybe like $500. And we were able to get it down to like $300.
She says taking these steps can also help protect your credit score.
This is not the first financial crisis that we've been through. It's not the last either. So it's really everyone's opportunity to just educate themselves and just know there's light at the end of the tunnel.
In San Diego, I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
Google is expanding its mental health screening tools to include anxiety. Now, Dr. David Feinberg, the head of Google Health, calls the pandemic a perfect storm for mental health issues.
So we're seeing a lot of people come to Google with questions about anxiety, about depression. And even if we go pre-COVID, we had 48 million Americans suffering from anxiety disorder. We've now seen that increase.
According to the new Census Bureau data, 1 in 3 Americans show signs of clinical depression, anxiety, or both. Now, here's how the new online tool works. Google Anxiety. A panel will appear on the side of your browser. It has information on disorders, and there's a link to a 7-question self-assessment. Dr. Feinberg says the most important thing is to get help if you need it. Google has a screening tool for depression and PTSD. Now, many small businesses are trying to figure out what's next with doors closed for months. Now, Chloe Norquist found just how many of them are turning to the internet to build relationships and make sales.
Everything happened, as we all know, in a matter of like 3 days. The world just changed dramatically.
Dawn Johnson owns 2 locations of a boutique franchise. She's been in business 7 years.
The passion of a small business owner goes so much deeper than people know. It's like a child.
Back in March, she was forced to close her doors. Her only solution, move online.
We tried things that we've never tried before. We tried a virtual fashion show or a virtual selling event with one of our best vendors.
With limited resources, Dawn and her staff managed to post their items for sale on platforms like Instagram and Facebook in a matter of days.
Anything helps. Anything helps. Like, I don't know, every time we get one sale on that, it's like I do a happy dance.
And brought in a following from all over.
How have you seen consumer behavior change during all of this?
We are social beings, and I think our limitations on our social interactions have 100% changed the way we do so many things.
Melissa Akaka is a consumer insights and marketing researcher.
Small businesses especially have had to become really innovative about how they can maintain relationships with their customers.
She says the pandemic has changed the way we buy things, and customer relationships, especially through social media, are more important than ever.
Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Ronald Reagan wore our shirts. And so, we have a following, but we're still a small family business.
Steve Weil is the president of Rockmount Ranchwear. They've been around about 75 years and went online back in 2001.
It enabled us to reach the world in a disrupted retail landscape. Since COVID, it was a part of our business that continued to operate, whereas retail did not.
Long-standing businesses like this have seen hard times before.
Everything from tornadoes wiping out factories to the Great Recession, and now this. The secret of survival is never forgetting that disasters happen. And we've been through them every 10 years for 75 years.
Even with the help of the internet and social media, both Don and Steve saw a drop in sales in recent months. Big social media sites like Facebook and Instagram are trying to make a difference by offering a platform for small businesses to market and sell. Facebook recently announced Facebook Shops, which will allow businesses to sell their items directly on their platform without taking them to another site. Dawn says she plans to take advantage of that too.
The Facebooks and the Instagrams of the world, it means a lot, like for companies to recognize how hard it is for small businesses.
Those who can step up and be solutions for that are the ones that are going to weather the storm much better.
I'm Chloe Nordquist reporting.
Now, a comedian in Boise, Idaho is keeping the jokes flowing during this pandemic. She's taken her act to sidewalks, yards, and parking lots.
I feel like it's in darkness that you need light, and it's at times like these that you most need to be cheered up. There's nothing that brings me more joy than making people laugh.
Now, she started doing these curbside comedy shows after her regular gigs were canceled. She is doing them for free. People can book her for their neighborhood on her website. Now, drive-in movie theaters could make a comeback in an effort to keep people going to the movies while social distancing. The extra precautions some owners are now taking to make sure people feel safe.
Home experts at theindychannel.com.
As states reopen, movie theaters are trying to sort out how to safely pack hundreds of people into their seats. As Usher Qureshi reports, that could lead to the resurrection of a nearly abandoned form of movie watching, the drive-in theater.
Cheeseburger, please. It's movie night in the great outdoors.
The screen is about 9 stories tall.
Welcome to McHenry, Illinois.
The outdoor theater is about 70 years old. It's the home to a great many memories.
With no new releases slated until at least July, Golden Age Cinemas has been showing classic features the last few weeks.
Wearing your face coverings at all times outside of your vehicle.
It has taken extra precautions due to the pandemic. The entire staff wears masks and gloves.
The employees have been instructed on washing their hands every 15 to 20 minutes, cleaning the bathrooms every 15 and 20 minutes, even if they look spotless.
Movie watchers must stay inside their vehicles, whether that means laying in the bed of a truck or in the back of a van.
It's nice being able to be outdoors and enjoying company this way. It's a change of pace, a good change of pace.
They've also limited the number of vehicles from 750 to 350 in order to maintain safe distances.
Hot dogs, cheeseburgers, popcorn.
But once the sun goes down, it feels like a regular movie night.
You know, getting to experience something that was, the norm back in the day and then, reliving it nowadays is really cool. And to share with someone special, I think that's even more important.
There were just over 4,000 drive-in cinemas like this one in the late 1950s. Today, about 300 are still in existence across the country. But some believe the need for social distancing could spark a renaissance in outdoor cinema. Scott Dean says he's selling out daily.
It's beyond anything I thought. I mean, and especially when you consider these aren't new movies. It's unbelievable.
Outdoor theaters are popping up around the world, from Germany to South Korea. With football season on hiatus, the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami is being converted into an open-air theater as well as a drive-in.
It's beautiful. We're very excited to be here. Looking forward to it and just having a good time.
The Karate Kid.
It's a return to classic entertainment as the world edges back to a return to normalcy. Reporting from McHenry, Illinois, I'm Usher Qureshi.
Now, a business owner says it's time for him to help the community that has helped him for years. The barbershop's plan to offer free haircuts to those in need.
Ashley Home Store. This is home.
Welcome back. We like to end the rundown with the stories that remind us of the good that is going on. Now, as businesses get back on their feet, some of them are giving back. Just like this barbershop in Kentucky, the owners of Cuts on Lime know that money might not be there for some people right now, so they're offering free haircuts to people without a job.
I'm an independent. This is not franchise. In the community, have been supporting my business and my family and my other guys that's been working with me in the shop for 6 years. And I feel like this is a good opportunity and a good time for us to give back to the community.
The shop plans on giving free haircuts every other week. And that's all the time we have today for Coronavirus The Rundown. We'll see you next time. I'm Chris Stewart. Thanks for joining us.